Hello, beautiful souls and Fibro Warriors. Welcome to A Diary of a Fibro Warrior, the podcast where we turn pain into power and isolation into connection. I'm Chico, a Fibro Warrior diagnosed in 2016. Living with fibromyalgia can feel like navigating a storm without a map. But here's the thing, you're not alone. This is a space where we share stories, swap strategies, and find solutions to thrive beyond the emotional and physical challenges of living with a chronic illness. Whether you're newly diagnosed or a seasonal warrior, you are most welcome here. So grab a tea or your favorite drink. In my case, it's decaf coffee. This morning, it's a rainy and semi-foggy day here on the coast in the UK. No surprises here. I'm tucked under my blankets on the sofa, trying to push through weather-related brain fog symptoms, which some of you may resonate with. I hope wherever you are in the world, your day has started off well. If not, I am wishing you better days. On that note, let's get comfy. Let's dive in today's episode. Together, we're stronger than fibro. Living with fibromyalgia, ME, and CFS can feel isolating, but one thing is clear, you're not alone. Recently, I asked our Living with Fibromyalgia community on Facebook this question. What's something you're strict about that helps you manage your symptoms better? Their responses poured in with wisdom, compassion, and practical advice. These are your fellow warriors sharing what works for them, ideas that might also help you too. Or you might have additional tips which could benefit others too. So let's dive into the insights they thankfully shared, starting off with movement. Movement matters, and some of the tips were, or examples of what they do were, for instance, walking in nature, stretching and yoga, and pacing yourself. Starting off with walking in nature, one warrior shared that long morning dog walks in quiet natural spaces helped clear their mind and ease symptoms. I don't know about you, but there's something magical about being surrounded by trees and fish and fresh air, don't you think? This is something which I find helpful as well when I've tended to go for walks in nature. And stretching and yoga. Gentle movements like yoga or Pilates, even for just 10 minutes a day, can help reduce stiffness and swelling. It's not about pushing yourself, it's about listening to your body and being in tune with your mind as well, in addition to the physical. Then pacing yourself. Many emphasize the importance of not overdoing it. As one warrior put it, if I do too much in one day, I pay for it the next day. Sound familiar? Definitely does for me, based on my past experiences. Then moving on into some insights Fibro Warriors shared was rest and recovery, such as sleep hygiene, resting when needed, and cold water therapy. In terms of sleep hygiene, a dark, quiet room and consistent sleep schedules are non-negotiables for many. One warrior said, without proper sleep hygiene, everything else falls apart. Then resting when needed. Pushing through fatigue often leads to longer recovery times. As one warrior wisely noted, resting when required is better than being forced to rest later. Then cold water therapy. Some found relief in cold water dips, which can help reduce inflammation and boost energy. It's not for everyone, but it's worth a try if you're feeling adventurous. Then moving on onto diet and hydration. mindful eating, and staying hydrated were some of the examples. So in terms of mindful eating, several warriors stress the importance of watching what they eat and drink, avoiding sugary and inflammatory foods. It's not affection, it's about progress. And in terms of avoiding sugar and inflammatory foods, there might be other additional things which you may also have found beneficial to eliminate, which you are most welcome to share. Staying hydrated. Drinking enough water is a simple yet powerful tool for managing symptoms. Keeping that bottle handy. For me, I like sparkling water, and I drink decaf tea on a regular basis throughout the day. I find it handy just to have something right next to me. And in terms of mindful eating, I'm very mindful, as some of you may also resonate with this. I have so many intolerances and sensitivities. Therefore, I have become very mindful, and I've adjusted to what works for me, and I know what the potential triggers can be as well. Then routine and structures, medication schedules, and pacing activities. So in terms of our medication schedules, staying consistent with medication, such as taking prescribed medication at the same time daily, helps many warriors manage their symptoms. And what I've found beneficial, as well, even including just taking vitamins, is setting an alarm, especially when one is experiencing cognitive challenges. And then in relation to pacing activities, breaking tasks into smaller chunks and scheduling rest days can prevent flare-ups. So even breaking into smaller chunks, it means also pacing yourself throughout the day and being mindful before moving on to the next thing. I've also found very beneficial and rewarding towards the end, as it minimizes the crash and burn process, where when you push yourself too much, you find that you crash for days or weeks on end, and it becomes much harder to recover and to also get out of the loop. One warrior shared that lying down early, even if not asleep, helps them reduce the sensation of being bruised all over. So lying down early could also mean having processes in place or systems in place which help you to get in a relaxed mood. Some people like meditative music, some people like listening to podcasts, other people like listening to their favorite music or a movie until their mind is ready to wind down and then to fall into a deeper sleep state. For me, it usually takes me quite a while to fall into deep sleep. So I've systems and processes where I will eventually fall asleep. For instance, I'll turn off my screen. I've set a light. I can't think of the word, but I think you might know. So to dim the brightness of the screen, so that at least it's helping my mind to start to rest easily. Then I'll do some activities which I'm not having to overly overwork my mind. For instance, during the pandemic, I started learning Turkish, but now I can listen to it without having to look at subtitles. So sometimes something is playing in the background, and then eventually I will end up falling asleep. Again, it's finding what works best for you. Then moving on into emotional and mental well-being. Self-care rituals, sunshine and joy. I love that. So when it comes to self-care rituals, from soothing baths to silent pauses with legs up, small acts of self-care can make a huge difference. This is an example of an insight of what another Fibro Warrior shared. Then moving on into sunshine and joy. One warrior shared that sunshine and the occasional glass of bubbly brings more happiness amidst the struggles. I love that. So it's tapping into things which bring you that little bit or even that extra bit of sunshine, natural vitamin D that will bring you moments of happiness amidst the struggles that come with living with a chronic illness such as fibromyalgia. Sometimes it's just those little things that can make a huge difference, right? Then the most important one of all, which is not the easiest thing to do, asking for help. And I'll admit, I'm putting my hand up. I've not often found it easy to ask for help. I've always been that type of personality that has taken control of things and managed independently on my own for as long as I can remember. So being in the state of being vulnerable and asking for help hasn't always been easy. Many highlighted the importance of leaning on loved ones for support, whether it's help with chores or simply having someone to talk to. These are just small things which can help overall, and it is okay to say, I am not doing okay. I am not at my best today, and then lean on somebody who you know will reciprocate and be able to offer you that support. Then moving on to avoiding triggers. And before I move on to the avoiding triggers, asking for help can also be externally from community, social groups, from professionals. So it's not only limited to smaller circles if you are not able to find support from loved ones or from close line. Avoiding triggers, limiting alcohol and managing sensory alcohol. Limiting alcohol for some, even a small amount of alcohol can lead to days of increased pain and fatigue. You may resonate with this, and if you have implemented measures, do feel free to share of what helps you best to minimize stress. Then managing sensory overload. Dimming lights, reducing noise can help with sensitivity to light and sounds. And I've also often found that reducing noise can also mean at times avoiding or minimizing the amount of exposure to crowded and noisy environments when out and about. That can also be beneficial. That you don't have to force yourself, where it can be helped to be environments where you know that in the end it will end up being exhausting. So in places where you can help it, it's about planning ahead how you can either avoid or minimize the time you spend in certain places where you know it could eventually lead to sensory overload or become overwhelming and exhausting. What can you take away? The beauty of this community is that we are all learning from each other. I am continuously learning. What works for one person might not work for another, but there's power in sharing and trying new strategies. Here are a few takeaways. Experiment. Try incorporating one or two of these tips which you have found helpful into your routine and see how it feels. Be kind to yourself. Progress is not linear, and it's okay to have bad days. Share your story. You're most welcome to. If you found something that helps you, feel free to share it in the comments or also on our Facebook Living with Fibromyalgia, which I've tagged here on this platform. Feel free to also become a part of that community if you're not already there, and to share. Your experience could be the support somebody else needs. Thank you as always for tuning into this podcast, Diary of a Fibro Warrior. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment or share your story. Your voice matters, and it could be the lifeline somebody else needs. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we're building a community where no one has to face fibromyalgia alone. Until next time, remember, you are stronger than your pain, braver than your doubts, and never, ever alone. I'm Chico, and I can't wait to connect with you real soon. Ciao from me for now. Until